Hello guys, in this video we will talk about other cases for correspondence. We've been dividing correspondent squares in opposition, triangulation, Main squares, and there are some other cases except for this one. How is the correspondence between squares determined? There is no special formula. The sensible way is to find chi-squares. First, you find the chi-squares, then you examine the possible plans for both sides, and then you calculate the simplest variations. The preliminary analysis might uncover some reciprocal Zugzwang squares. From there, you might go to uncover an entire network of corresponding squares. The following 3 videos will demonstrate how to make a logical analysis of these positions. Hello guys, welcome to the first puzzle of analysis. This is a puzzle by Grigoriev in 1921. Very clever. You can see we have some bits on the table. I'm going to take them away and explain what they are. For the purpose of this video, we swapped and we're going to use this pawn design tokens for corresponding squares. And we're going to use the two logos. We use camel for Main squares, and the boats, we're going to use them for chi-squares, because we have to look into all of those in order to solve this puzzle. When you first look at this setup, this position, it might not look like much. It might not have any anchor points. Sorry, king was on f4. Black is to move, and he can make a draw with a correct game. And the first impression is that, oh, we've been learning about correspondence squares, and I remember opposition was one of these squares, so it must be king to e3. And therefore we take opposition and win the endgame. Alright, but let's start analyzing. Now, we have what we call Main squares in this layout, which will be these two squares. And we know if we have Main squares, you must not be the first one who steps on a Main square. Yeah? It doesn't exactly apply because of this pawn, but let's look into chi-squares. We have a chi-square on e2. We have another chi-square on f2, and black needs to find a way to prevent white from accessing those chi-squares. Once white's king does that, black is totally lost. Another chi-square will be on b3, because if white manage to get on b3, again, there's no way we can avoid losing the game as black. So if we look into white's way to reach the chi-square on b3, we'll see that king has to travel queenside, and then through a2 he will come to p3. The best square that we can, the corresponding square that we can place our king to prevent that, will be on b4. So therefore we have our first pair of corresponding squares. If white steps on a2, black has to step on b4. Okay? And as white king travels towards a4, he will step on b1. Where should black king be positioned in order to have access to b4? Obviously he cannot go through c4 because it's an illegal move, so he will come through c5. And then white will step on b1 after he was on c1. Then the corresponding square for c1 will be d4. Before that, white was on d1, and the corresponding square for that was e3. And now we kind of get a hint. Previously, white king was on e1, and the corresponding square for e1 was f3. And now there we have our solution. If white king stands on e1, the corresponding square we need to occupy is f3. Now let's wipe the board and try to play king e3 and demonstrate how black is losing because he placed himself in Zugzwang. Black steps on e3, white king goes on d1. If black tries to go on f2, obviously he's lost. If he goes to f3, that's not a corresponding square. If black king goes to d4, he's losing the key square. So again, after that he's lost. The only way for black is to go to f3, but that won't give him enough time to reach the b4 when the white king is on a2. He won't manage to get to b4, and let's prove that. King to c1, king to e3, king to b1. Black cannot afford to step on d2 because he's losing the white pawn out of his reach. So king to d4. White king gets the corresponding score on a2, but black king is too far away. We remember that first step of the black king to e3, then step into f3, it cost him a tempo, which was just enough for white to get the key score on b2 and win the game.